So, I just got out of seeing the brand new Planet of the Apes movie, which is entitled Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It is the fourth movie in this brand new saga of Apes films that we have gotten. Of course, the first three sort of being a prequel trilogy of movies, two of which were directed by Matt Reeves. You had Rise, you had Dawn, and then you had War. It was one of the most underrated trilogies of films ever. Every single one of these films, I thought at least, were absolutely top-notch. And now we have this fourth film directed by Wes Ball that is both a continuation but also a reset sort of in this series. Well, what does that mean? Well, sort of imagine kind of like the Star Wars trilogy, how you have these three trilogies of Star Wars. You have the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, and then the shit trilogy. Now, picture that and how each trilogy is sort of its own thing, its own story, and there's a large enough time jump in between each of them to really designate that each one is different. Now, some of the characters come back, some of the ideas are spread throughout all three, and it is telling sort of one singular story, but they are separate trilogies. That seems to be what they're starting here with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It is this new trilogy that might be like a middle trilogy of what seems to be a much larger epic saga. Because of that, this movie starts off about 300 years after the last Planet of the Apes movie that we got from Matt Reeves, War for the Planet of the Apes, a movie in which Caesar, at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, dies. Now we pick up 300 years later and we see a world that has been completely taken over by apes, pretty much. The apes are still kind of spread out, kind of not the apes that we see like in the original Planet of the Apes movies from the 1960s, the ones where we jump 2,000 years in the future. They're not as organized, they're not as structured, they're kind of spread out in different communities, and humans have, because of the virus, reverted to being this very tribal species. And this movie has a very, very basic setup. We follow this character Noah, who is our new lead. He is this young ape who lives in this community that is centered around birds. Their whole thing is they really like birds. And then one day, this large grouping of other apes comes in and they kidnap everybody in this community except for Noah, and they fuck off. So Noah now has to go and he has to save his people from this mysterious group. It's a very, very simple setup that leads to him going on this big adventure across this land looking for his family. It's a big, epic, sci-fi sort of CGI fest, something along the lines of like Avatar, or like those movies. That's really what I think this movie was going for, visually, structurally, and story-wise. The closest thing to a James Cameron-y Avatar film, maybe a little bit darker, a little bit more dreadful, because the world is just kind of devastated, but there's a movie that really relies on its simple storytelling, its imagery, its visuals, and it's kind of character-focused story here. And let's talk about the characters, because obviously in the original trilogy, we always had some really good human characters, and then you had Caesar to balance it out, played brilliantly by Andy Serkis. Here, we have Noah, like I've said, he's a great character. You understand his motivations. He loves his families, and he's kind of the eyes of the audience here. He's this young ape that doesn't really understand the history of the apes in this world. He doesn't know where humanity was 300 years ago. He doesn't know who Caesar was, and he slowly starts to learn and sort of see how the world got the way that it was, and we're kind of seeing through his eyes as the audience. If you're somebody who's never seen the previous trilogy, you would be going into this movie learning with Noah about what is going on in the world. You also get Rocco, who's this big orangutan ape. You know, he kind of looks like one of the apes in the original movies, and he's this wise dude that is holding on to the ways of Caesar, the ways of the original Caesar from the original movies, and he's kind of upset at how the world is falling apart. Apes are super, super mad at humans, and they're just angry and dicks, and humans, the ones that are still out there, are just dumb and sad, and it's just a sad world, and we have to bring back the ways of Caesar. He is a great character, he's entertaining, he's fun, and he is one of the better parts of the movie. Then, you finally meet one of the human characters. And like I said, as they introduced the characters in this movie, I remember thinking, this is kind of like a Final Fantasy, like a JRPG. We're on this quest, and we're meeting party members and just collecting them. But either way, you met Freya Allen's May, who is this human character who is a lot smarter than the other humans, which asks a lot of interesting questions early in this film that I won't spoil the answers to, but it asks, why is she the only human that could talk? Why is she the only one that could think? And where that goes is kind of interesting, but I'm not going to get too much into it here. If you guys want a spoiler video, maybe I'll talk about it there. But lo and behold, these guys make it to this kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, this kingdom of apes, where Noah's family was taken to, and it is led by this evil king, or he's kind of evil. We'll get into it in a second, but he is the antagonist of the movie, Proximus Caesar. And we see this group that has kind of been taken over by this ideology of what they believe the original Caesar was like. And we get this very interesting character of Proximus Caesar who has his ideologies and he has his understanding of the world. And it created something very interesting for me with this movie that I really loved. It's sort of this situation where there is no bad guy in this movie when you really watch it through and you think about it. This is just a movie of different perspectives that kind of battle against each other. And we happen to follow Noah, who his his only intention is to save his family. So of course his intentions are good, his goals are good, but he's kind of in the middle of like this two-sided conflict where you can't really call either side the bad guy. You can call them maybe, people that just don't understand what they're doing and how it's affecting other people. But like the characters here, there isn't like an obvious evil bad guy here. But Proxima Caesar is a great character, and that character steals every scene he's in. He's just great, fun, awesome, dark, badass. You see it in the trailers when he's like, "What a wonderful day!" It is a wonderful day watching him in this movie. He's great. And everything that happens in the third act of this movie is really crazy, and I think the film does kind of resolve to a nice spot. So overall, I did enjoy this movie a lot. It is a big, epic Planet of the Apes movie, very similar to the previous 3 movies. Everything those 3 movies does right, this film really does get right. It is a smaller movie in scope of characters. Like, in the actual story it's telling and what's going on, it is very, very small, but visually, and the music and how the production is, makes it feel large. Yet again, I compare it to something like Avatar. If you think about Avatar, it's really not the biggest film story-wise. Story-wise, it's a very simple, kind of basic, little, small scope story, but then the visuals and everything else make it feel huge. That's what this is. It is an absolute epic that at times I could definitely see can bore some people. This is a slow burn similar to the previous movies, which is my type of thing. I love it. I love when movies take their time to introduce the world, to get you into the visuals, the music, the characters. I love that, but I could totally understand how people, about an hour into this movie, will be completely checked out. So if you're that type of person, you might want to skip this one. Another thing people might not like about this movie is that this movie is clearly setting up a new trilogy of films. This does stand alone as a very simple story, but there is clearly something being set up here that's teasing a future film. For example, like at the end of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where when that movie ended, it was clearly setting up a third part that was going to finish the story of Caesar. This film at times really does feel like the first part of a trilogy that is currently not complete. It just sets up a lot of aspects about the world. It leaves a lot of threads kind of untied and just not fulfilled. And it does end in a spot where I do want to see what they do next, although I think the ending kind of makes some changes and assumptions about the world that don't make a lot of sense and kind of undo some assumptions I was making about the current world that I didn't really love, but it does open the door for a very interesting direction to where they can go in the second and third movie, especially if they continue with Noah as a character, as the lead, and his relationship with the humans and everything going on there. It could all be very, very interesting, and we'll see what they do. But as a standalone movie, I think Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is probably the best possible thing you can get from the start of a new trilogy, following one of the best and most underrated trilogies we have ever gotten. It's a film that delivers all the great visuals that you expect from this series already. It delivers great characters, really good emotional beats. It actually has some surprisingly funny moments. The music and the sound design is brilliant. It has a third act that is action-packed, that is gripping, does get you to sit on the edge of your seat for a few moments. The CGI is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it is as convincing as you could expect from something like this. Although maybe the film is slow at times, maybe you could have cut some stuff off of it, and maybe the film does take too much time to set up the next stuff. I can forgive all that, because I have no doubt that we're probably going to get a second and a third movie in this trilogy. My only concern is it doesn't seem like Wes Ball, the director of this film, also the director of the Maze Runner films, which I am a closeted fan of. I love those movies, if I'm going to be honest. But Wes Ball seems to be moving on to do the Zelda movie, so he's probably not going to be involved in the second or third of this trilogy. I just hope they get consistency with the writers, bring the same writers back and have them write the scripts. But yet again, this is Disney. This is the main reason why I thought these new Apes movies were going to be shit, because Disney's involved. They proved me wrong for now. There's still time, though. We'll see. We'll see. The mouse always comes out shitting on movie franchises. It's just what always happens. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I love all these movies, and I had a great time with this one. I think it is one of the better films of the 4 that we've gotten in this modern age of ape movies. I will give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes a 4 out of 5. It's a great movie that I can recommend. If you don't like these slow burn, big, epic action blockbuster films, you're probably not going to like this one. But if you're somebody who enjoys these big event films in cinema that we only usually get once or twice a year, these big epics that earn the word epic, then this is one that you're going to want to see. It is as big of a summer blockbuster, almost 3-hour, just CGI odyssey of a film. This is what you like. If you like the Lord of the Rings type shit, this isn't Lord of the Rings, but it's that same style. We're on the road, we're on an adventure, we're seeing this world, and it's There's something magical about these kinds of films that really grip me, and this one did just that. So what do you guys think? Let me know what you thought of this movie down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, make sure to turn on notifications to see everything when I post them. See you guys in the next video.